also very excited that Josh McCuistion, Soonerscoop.com, joins us right now on the week of Texas OU, the Red River game. And Josh, this is an OU offense that brought in Seth Luttrell to replace Jeff Lebby. It has not clicked on all cylinders. They've already had to make a quarterback change. Do you think that the defense will be able to hold that Texas offense in check enough to where they can at least keep pace and keep this game close?
Paul, not clicking on all cylinders may have been the nicest way I've heard it put so far for this Oklahoma offense. That it has been pretty ugly for large portions of the year. You know, to me, this is a question of, is there a point in time when Oklahoma is going to accept what they are as a team right now, which is a limited offense that has, you know, with Michael Hawkins and a few of the weapons they have some big playability, but I don't think it's a sustained drive. Like, I don't think they're a team that can count on each time they get the ball, hey, it's a 50-50 chance if they're going to go down the field and score. What I do think they can count on is their defense. I really do think the defense is much, much improved, even from last year, which took a big step forward. So what I would like to see Oklahoma do, what I think is their best their best path to success, is probably slowing the game down a little bit, keeping the ball away from Quinn Ewers, letting their defense get some rest on what we all expect to be a really hot Saturday at the Cotton Bowl, and trying to play some ball control. I've been saying that for a month, and it hasn't happened. So maybe they're just not listening to me, which is perfectly sound advice. But I just think Oklahoma at some point has to kind of embrace who they are, and it doesn't seem like they're ready to do that.
Josh, how has the whole situation there with Jackson Arnold kind of been taken by the Sooners fan base, and just the conversation around obviously what was a very hyped up young man that just wasn't playing well enough? And in line with that, what's kind of the I guess reaction been to Michael Hawkins? I remember came across a podcast where I think it was Gabe Eichert was talking big about him, from back in the spring and his talent level. But just what's kind of the overall thoughts on Hawkins as a prospect and what he can be?
Hawkins is a guy that and that Gabe was right, and I know he heard similar things to what I did. They were very excited about Michael Hawkins almost immediately when he got there. There was a lot of belief of, okay, maybe we got a steal here. Maybe we got a guy that should have been more recruited than he was, that kind of stuff. So there was some real enthusiasm. I don't think anybody thought they were going to be in this situation. Everybody kind of believed Jackson Arnold was going to be that guy. Now, I will say I think the fan base has taken it well, because I think, to his credit, Brent Venables handled it pretty well. I think he gave – there's a lot of thought of like, oh, they pulled him in the fourth game, his fourth career start. Anybody that watched the first half of that Tennessee game, Jackson Arnold was unplayable at that point. You couldn't keep putting him out on the field. Something was wrong. He was panicked. He just didn't look anything like the guy that, everybody that's watched Texas high school football over the last 4 or 5 years had seen. He wasn't that guy, and I don't know what is to blame for that. But they had to make a move, and then I think the next week they immediately came back and said, Michael Hawkins is the guy. They didn't leave it out all week and say, oh, we'll see, and try to play games with the media. They said, this is our guy. We're going to go forward. And I think it killed a lot of the, angst in the locker room, stuff like that we all know can emerge. So I think they've handled it well, and I think the fan base has kind of jumped in line with that. And Michael Hawkins has flashed some impressive things. You look at the second half of that Tennessee game, people kind of mocked OU fans that were like, well, what happens if Michael Hawkins starts that game? You could make a case that what happens is what Arkansas did 2 weeks later. So, it's I don't know that I believe that, but it is a case to be made, because Arkansas attacked Tennessee in a very similar way.
Josh, Texas is a juggernaut right now. They haven't really been tested. How much of the rivalry comes into this with this big, gigantic 14-point spread that's there right now? How much of the fact that they haven't played a defense like Oklahoma's, except for maybe Michigan, but they didn't really have a problem with them at all? Like, do you put into that this game might be closer than we expect?
I'm one of those people, like, I look at this from a numbers and watching tape. I've gone over Texas. I've watched most of their games this year, and, just for different articles on Sooner Scoop. And when I look at it, like, it's an interesting conversation because I think Texas is clearly the better of these two teams. I think Oklahoma may have the best unit on the field with their defense, but Texas brings so much more offensively than Oklahoma does, and Texas' defense is very good in its own right. So it's kind of an interesting conversation because I feel like Texas is just very complete. They're just not going to make the mistakes that, you know, you look back at last year. Quinn Ewers throws the early interception. He has the fumble. He made some bad mistakes that I think really opened the door for Oklahoma last year. I'm not seeing that same stuff from Quinn Ewers. Now he had a few against Michigan. I bet he'd like those throws back, but he avoided the crippling mistakes. So again, to me, OU fans, there's a lot of, well, you never can tell in this game. Man, that's not something to buy into. That's not the reason you're going to win a football game. Crazy stuff happens because you've got two, you know, rivals, and strange things can happen. But I don't know. To me, the line feels pretty fair based on the body of work so far.
Will Oklahoma have any receivers, or will they have to go into the stands to bring some folks out to try and catch some passes this week?
And, you know, I'm being tough on OU. They've had a plague at wide receiver in the offensive line. I mean, I said it before. So they came into this year with 5 new starters on the offensive line. Within the first 15 snaps of the season, they had lost 3 of those 5 new starters and had to juggle the offensive line. Then the receivers against Auburn, they were out their top 5. They may well be out again their top 5. So it's just been brutal. And, you know, Oklahoma came into the year thinking wide receiver is one of the real strengths of this team. There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of talent. You go get Deion Burks from Purdue. There was a lot of, you know, he's going to come to Oklahoma for a year and be off to the NFL draft. And it just hasn't worked out that way. So I think there is some talent. I think Oklahoma has to lean on Bauer Sharp at tight end. I think they need some guys like Brennan Thompson, the former Texas player, Jaquez Petaway. It's Oklahoma. They have some talent, but they need some guys to step up in a big way if they're going to find a way to pull this off.
How big would this win be given the rest of the schedule is still just full of, landmines all over the place?
You know, I posed the question, on our podcast today, and it was kind of a idea of what's bigger for Oklahoma. So if would you rather have Oklahoma win this game or to walk out of that game knowing, you lost, but Michael Hawkins is your quarterback? You've got your answer at quarterback. To me, I take the quarterback because I know what's coming down the line. Like, Oklahoma's got to find a way to get things going offensively. But there's no question it's huge. I mean, Oklahoma wins this game, they're probably back in the top 10. People are talking about them like a playoff contender. That helps in recruiting. We know all the, ancillary benefits of a win in this game, and because Oklahoma and Texas go head-to-head so much in just about everything they do. So that's all big. But I think it's a confidence thing. Oklahoma needs to go out early offensively, maybe find a little success. They're not going to go wild or anything like that, but get some first downs, build a little confidence with your young quarterback, and hopefully, for them, they're going to believe that their offensive line is playing their, this is just their second start of the starting 5 they expected to have all season for their offensive line. So I think they do have some optimism that things will get better in the run game. And if you can do that, you can open up some things for Michael Hawkins. But again, I think it's a big deal because everyone realizes how good this Texas team is.
Josh, what's it been like to see the beginning of the SEC tenure? Obviously, the tough loss to Tennessee, but then the big bounce back come from behind against Auburn. The new road trip's just a new flavor. I can speak as a fan. It's been very, very interesting. I love the Big 12, but it's been very interesting to see. But on your end and just the site and all of that, what's this first dipping of the toes into the SEC been like?
Oh, it really has. It's incredible just to see, Oklahoma and Tennessee. We've seen that a few times recently, but Oklahoma and Auburn, I mean, for being two programs, have a lot of history, a lot of success, either in the distant past and the near recent past, I guess. It was weird seeing them out there. And, you see the Eagle walking through the tunnels before the game, all that, wow, it's all this stuff that's so synonymous with college football, and getting to experience some of that stuff is just, it's wild. And it really is. And it's exciting. It's fun to see. Now, I think for the players and coaches, they probably are like, yeah, that's great. This is a grind. It's just a different thing when you come out of that Tennessee game that was just a brutal fist fight, and then you immediately go to Auburn and play one of the more physical teams in the SEC. So it's just kind of never-ending waves. And I think, Oklahoma's coaches knew that, but I think the players said that, but I think they're now learning this is reality.
Admit it, Josh. You miss it. You miss the Big 12.
Yeah.
Just say it out loud that you wish it never happened. It's okay. This is safe space.
I think there are absolutely some fans that were very excited about the SEC, but late in the third quarter of that Tennessee game were like, would it be so bad if this was, Kansas or somebody like that? So, there have definitely been some moments when the posters at Soonerscoop.com were like, are we sure this was the right move for us? So, again, there's going to be growing pains. It was just inevitable.
Josh McCuistion, Soonerscoop.com. Josh, enjoy the game this week. Thanks for hopping on. It's great to talk to you again.
Hey, always enjoy it, guys.
Josh McCuistion, Soonerscoop.com with us here on 365 Sports.